Welcome in on this snowy day in the Mile High City. Got that music bumping. NFL Week 1 right around the corner, 1 day away from Thursday Night Football. Incredible. Obviously, the mood around NFL football here in Prop City, Fraud City, the Mile High City, a bit like the weather. We kind of went from 90 and sunny to 30 and snowy and gloomy like that because the GOAT won't be on the team for the Broncos for probably the whole year now. So that alters things significantly. In fact, if we want to talk week 1 lines, which we will be doing on your final show here with us, Hank, before Ryan comes back on, and I'm proud to say I have survived. I am in the plus. I have 2 more wins above 500 than I did coming into this with you, Hank, and I'm 1.8 units above. So despite all the insanity we've done, the Rockies props yesterday, taking the overs on the Padres, the overs on the Rockies, and the over in the whole game, that really salvaged a lot of things. Plus the Vegas Knights, huh? How about those Knights? We said it. Yep. Dude, how much are you kicking yourself for not sprinkling, taking them to win in a shutout?
In hindsight, that actually is something that I was thinking about because it was such a lock, I feel like, for both the Lightning and the Knights to be winning these series. Yes. And I did take them to win the series by at least 2 games and got decent odds by both of them. But I do wish I had at least, like, as you said, sprinkled that sweep because that is such good value.
It's the missed opportunities that always get you the most. And that's why you guys need to always consider live betting the Rockies, then not doing so to get that good karma for the Rockies. Because, again, nothing gets you more than the bets you didn't place. Hopefully you didn't place too many bets on the Broncos spread going into week 1, because when those lines first came out, Denver was a 1.5-point favorite. That's now swung a full 3 points to the Titans being a 1.5-point favorite. And obviously what's happened in just the last few days is the Titans have added Jadeveon Clowney and the Broncos no longer have Von Miller for week 1. So obviously that's a huge swing. Rarely outside of quarterbacks will you see a swing that large, but with 2 star players on the defensive side, that's what's going down. So I just thought that was relevant news, kind of that change in the line. I believe with the Von Miller news now swinging that line a full 3 points, there is no other line that has swung that drastically since these first came out, and I calculated and tracked them all, back during quarantine time. When our podcast here was just starting to now, that's the line that's seen the most change. So worth mentioning. But anyways, didn't want to put a damper on us. Still wearing shades. Still happy you're here, Henry. But you've got some picks. We went through some good college football picks yesterday that we like, that I think will prove to be quite nice for us. Now I wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of talk NFL, talk about what you've got an upcoming column here for some football betting, which I'm excited to, pump out and maybe have you on a weekly basis to talk about those. So anyways, there's some of these picks you have that I agree with, some of them that I don't so much agree with, and some I think you're just straight up crazy. So what you got? What do you like in this NFL slate, man?
Well, let's just start with the one that I think is the one you're going to call crazy, and that is the Cardinals playing at San Francisco. Yep. It does feel crazy to do anything but just take the 49ers here, because the 49ers are coming off one of their best seasons in a decade, really, since their last Super Bowl appearance, because that's what they did again last year, is go to the Super Bowl. Looking at that team, though, I do not trust it. I think that especially in the NFC West, they're going to have some competition. And when you just look at the roster turnover, particularly losing DeForest Buckner, and that really is an important position. And sure, they bring in Javon Kinlaw to quickly replace him. You just can't fill those shoes. And when you lose, in my opinion, the best player on that defense, you have to expect some sort of regression, especially because defenses have more turnover than offenses. You can find that in like the fantasy points and the just total defensive stats that the defenses have. But
Sure.
I do think that they're due for some regression. I'm not bought in with that group of receivers with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that maybe there was a little bit of flukiness last year. Throw in the fact that Arizona has potential to be a breakout team, and that's not really a team that I'm super high on. The Cardinals, I think that they're getting a little bit overrated. But if the 49ers fall back a bit, or if the Cardinals take the leap that they're totally capable of taking, then all of a sudden this is a toss-up game. If one of those two things happens, I think the Cardinals have a real shot, and that's why I like that plus 255 value on the Cardinals. I think that the line is set at 7. That's also tempting, is just to take them to be within a touchdown.
Yes.
And that's where I want to get started.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because all the cases you're making, my data agrees with you pretty much down the line. I mean, nothing you're saying is crazy. 13 win team last year, projected to be more of a, the win line set at 10.5. So already Vegas has baked in, regression by 2.5 wins. And then my metrics bake in an extra win of regression. So you're looking at more of a 9.5 team, which I think we agree. Super Bowl hangover, all the factors you just built in. Not 13 win team, but not like, oh, they're not even making the playoffs. They're in that 9 win range. The Cards were a 5 win team last year. Their win line is set at 7. So again, there's some baked in projected improvement there. And yeah, my metrics seem to agree with that. If it's not 7, it's going to be 8. So instead of a 13 win team against a 5 win team, it's more like, per my metrics, a 9.5 win team against an 8 win team. So those margins are way slimmer. The other big factor, and I love that this was a commonality in a lot of your picks, Hank. I don't know if you even caught this or realized this, but so many of the picks you like are road dogs. Why is the road dog important this year? We have no fans. We have no fans. So how much does it matter on the road? Because I haven't adjusted my metrics. I've still left the 3-point home advantage. Now, I haven't, I used to do for if a game's at Arrowhead, if a game's in Seattle, then instead of a 3-point advantage, it's a 3.5, 4-point advantage because those, Seattle, especially you factor in the travel of having to go to Seattle and all that kind of stuff. It's a real advantage. Now it's just a standard 3, but that standard 3 might be foolish. I mean, how much of an advantage is it to have to travel somewhere? To have to sleep one night in a hotel? Big whoop. With no fans, is it a 1-point advantage? Is it a 1.5-point advantage? So that slims the margin even further of a game where, again, when these lines were first came out, Niners were 8.5-point favorites, now just 7. So we've already seen the public come around to what you're saying. Yeah. That said, I would take the points over the money.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And, the column isn't published yet. And I think that is one that I'm really considering tweaking. I'm not sure whether it is the money line, because the money line implies you have to expect the Cardinals to win this game 29% of the time for it to be a good bet. And I think that this is, at the very least, 2-1 chance in favor of San Francisco. And I think that it's a lot closer than 50-50, because I think that the underdogs in general, especially in this week 1, where we haven't seen the preseason, where everything is kind of based on the outside speculation and less on what you've seen on the field, I think that there's room for some error, and there are going to be some good teams that we think are good and turn out to be bad. I think that there are going to be some teams we expect to be bad that turn out to be good. I think that this could be a pretty chaotic week 1. And I'm just trying to pick some shots on these underdogs to try to find some value. One more note on this game, the 49ers did win both matchups last year, but they only won the first one by 3 points. And the Cardinals were actually winning the game heading into the fourth quarter by 2 points before blowing that, and it wound up being a 10-point game. Before those 2 games, Arizona had won 8 straight games against the 49ers. That dates all the way back to 2014.
Interesting. I'm with you. I think you're onto something, that the difference between this team isn't as large as it's being made out to be. I'm not as bullish, but I think your logic is sound on this one. What else do you like?
Well, straying from my underdog strategy, I'm gonna jump to Patriots -6.5 against Miami. I'm not impressed with this Miami team. I think that it's getting overrated. I think that teams that do have those high picks, there are some quick high expectations for them.
Yeah.
And especially when you're not even going to see the guy you use that top pick on, the Tua Tagovailoa, this is still just a bottom 3, bottom 5 team in the league to me. And the Patriots are not. I don't think the Patriots have fallen off nearly as much as everybody outside of, me, I guess, seems to think so. I think that this is a great fit for Cam. Just running back, Tom Brady has been the man in New England for forever. But then you start to look at who else has even played since he took over. Back in 2016, Tom Brady missed 4 games of suspension. Last time he missed any time with the Patriots. Jimmy Garoppolo came in, won both of his first 2 starts before getting hurt. Jacoby Brissett came in, won his first start. This is a coaching staff that is going to be able to build an offense around a quarterback. And especially when Cam Newton really doesn't need as many changes as I think people expect, there won't be much of a drop-off. Matt Castle won 10 games when Brady missed 15 games of that torn ACL. I really do think that this is going to be a pretty easy win by the Patriots, and I think that they're going to win by a touchdown.
I know producer Kale, who knows his stuff. Like I challenge any producer in the Denver area to go head to head with Kale's sports knowledge, but especially on the NFL, where he is he's truly an asset.
Definitely.
His blood's boiling hearing you talk about this, because he would love to remind us that actually in the last several years, the Patriots and Dolphins always split. So I looked into this because I was thinking about this pick of yours. They always split, but what happens is the first game they play in the season, the Pats blow them out. The second game, it's really close, and the Dolphins pull one off. Now, there's a little more continuity with the Dolphins, which is kind of new to them because there's been a lot of changeover. But having the same quarterback and same head coach, I think it's been a minute since that's happened. The other thing is, what's crazy is despite adding Cam Newton, this line has gone from Pats being a 7.5 point favorite to just a 6.5 point favorite. So there's for one, and this is something our CEO, Brandon Spano, taught me very early on in my BSN ATS days, was that Miami's one of those teams that just gets a ton of public money. That's because of their proximity to the Caribbeans and all the kind of offshore stuff that goes on. So take that with a grain of salt. On top of that, they've got the extra juice, right? Because everyone thinks, oh, they were that bottom dweller last year. They've signed a bunch of big name free agents. They had a loaded rookie class. They're going to be a lot better. But as you say, it's probably going to take a minute for that to occur. The only question is how much of this home field is going to factor in, because, could it be a 3-point game, or is this going to be a blowout? Anything under 7, though, I kind of like the Pats. I'm kind of with you here.
I like it by a touchdown.
Yeah, and just for the clarity, my metrics, just based off the numbers last year, YPP would have the Patriots as an 8-point favorite, and estimated win would have them as a 13-point favorite. So
there we
whether
go.
by a slim edge or a larger edge, my 2 metrics agree with you on this one.
All right. Want to jump into my next dog?
Let's do it, dog.
The Packers at the Vikings. And here's why. I think the Vikings are just getting overrated. The Packers are a good football team. Matt LaFleur comes in his first year, leads this team to 13 wins, and everybody forgets about it. Not just 13 wins. Then they do it in the postseason. They go to the NFC Championship game. Oh, but yeah, this is a team that has a washed up old quarterback. They can't do anything. Like they lost an offensive lineman. They lost the ghost of whoever that tight end was, who you don't even want, because Sternberger's just fits this scheme so much better than Jimmy Graham ever would. Yeah, they lose a defensive lineman. Like, this is a young team outside of Aaron Rodgers. They have talent all over. I really like all these receivers, and I just think that there's too much hype behind the Vikings. Yannick Ngakoue has one career 10-sack season, and it was in that fluky year where he got to play with Calais Campbell and all those other guys down in Jacksonville. Meanwhile, you have 2 of the top 8 pass rushers by sacks last year with the Packers, and they totally get forgotten because you have Daniil Hunter and Yannick Ngakoue on the other side. The Packers have a very good defense. They replaced Blake Martinez with a guy who can actually cover. I love that. I think that you put Jair Alexander on Thielen, you can shut that man down. And then you start rushing Kirk Cousins, it's over. Plus, like the Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook separation is not nearly as big as everybody's making it out to be. On the road, I think that this is a lot closer to a toss-up than just a pure Packers win. But at plus value, I cannot turn this down.
Worth mentioning, Packers won both contests last year in pretty low scoring, like 21 to the high teens type games, which is why the line that's got me most intrigued here is the under 46, honestly. Because I think you're right. I think it's easy to paint this as a pass rushers, quarterbacks type of matchup, but I think it's going to come down to the running games and the run defenses. Both these defenses matched up almost identically last year. The real separator was the run defense. The pass defense, the Packers had the slight edge, just allowing 1 fewer yard per game a year ago in the air, but the Packers did allow 10 more yards on the ground. That's where I think there might be the dividing line, but I get what you mean. And the Packers are in the plus money, and you're going counter tendency, because the tendency is, yes, they were a 13-win team last year, but Vegas only has their over/under set in 8.5.
Yeah,
so Vegas is expecting a massive regression here, massive,
which is
and
pretty crazy.
Totally, no one likes their offseason either.
Mm-hmm. I mean, now they're going into their second year having some offensive continuity. You know, you talk about that running game. I like Everson Griffin better, Everson Griffin better as a run defender than I like Yannick Ngakoue. I think that the Vikings took a step backward. As much as I love the linebackers they have there, those guys are playing 5 yards away from the ball, and up front in the middle, the 2 defensive tackles that the Vikings are going to throw out there, Shamar Stephen and Jaleel Johnson, those guys don't scare me. You're going to be able to beat them up inside. And then you look at the cornerbacks they're going to line up with Devontae Adams. Who is it? Is it Mike Hughes or Holton Hill?
Yeah, I just think Mike Hughes.
It just doesn't matter to me. Yeah, I mean, I just think that these are matchups across the board that I just like the Packers in.
Yeah, I'm more bullish on the Vikings, but really, I mean, so even if the Packers are an 8.5 win team, Minnesota's also an 8.5 win team. That's the win totals you're giving both of them. So basically, in the neutral site, you're saying it's a pick 'em. With it being in Minnesota, you're giving Minnesota the slight edge, but how much of an edge, right? So yeah, I mean, you want to say take the plus money. I'm with it. I'm not locked in my whole preseason prediction. This is kind of a Padres Rockies things, right? I've been on the Vikings way more than I've been on the Packers. So this is the one where we really disagree. But
yep.
I mean, I guess the way you present it, and once I look at the data, it's not even a huge disagreement.
No. I got one more pick. Sticking with the NFC North, sticking with the road dogs. That's the Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions, plus 128. Again, I just like this money line value in week 1. The points scare me, especially this game with the 2.5 point spread, I believe. And maybe it might be 3 now that I think of it. And that 3-point spread, I do like a little bit better.
It is 3, yep.
But
this has changed from Lions 1-point favorite to 3-point favorites, by the way.
Wow, that's really building. To me, yeah. I just I think again that this whole NFC North is a lot closer than people give credit. I do think that the Vikings and Packers are ahead of the Lions and Bears, but Lions and Bears to me, totally even playing ground. I think that you have to look at the recent history and just the success that they've had. And I know that I went away with that with the 49ers, but there were some reasons for that. And when you look at these two teams, Matt Patricia has a 9-22-1 record with the Lions. He's on the hot seat. And it doesn't seem like people are talking about that enough. Jim Nagy, meanwhile, goes to the Bears at the same time, 20-12, and he's had Mitchell Trubisky all the way through. It's not like this is a new thing that Mitchell Trubisky is going to be the quarterback. They've been able to win games with him there. Even if it dropped down to 8-8 last year, that's still a lot better than the 3 wins that got the Lions. So I think you have to start with this game by getting rid of these preconceived notions of what these teams are, and then realizing how good this Bears defense is and kind of how overrated this Lions defense is. I think that this is a game that is kind of going to get ugly. I think that there will be some rust in this Lions passing attack. just because it has been a while since they've gotten together. And sure, I think that it's going to be good long term, and I think that might even have some fantasy value this week. But I think the Bears can just run the ball against this defense, and that's going to be enough to give the Bears defense an opportunity to win them a game. Plus 128. I love that value. Also, if you parlay the Bears to win.
Hold up. David Montgomery is hurt. What run game do you think the Bears are going to have?
We'll see. We'll see if he plays. But to me, like, I'm not the biggest David Montgomery guy anyway, and I think we've talked about this on the fantasy podcast. I think that I just like the style of this team, and they're going to pound the rock. And I think that that's going to be enough. Again, this money line, though, parlayed with the under 44.5 total, you could get that combination at plus 325. And if you're more of a risky bettor, I do like that value.
Yeah, I mean, on paper, the defense with Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack and those kind of blue chippers, it's definitely superior. What's crazy is even without Matthew Stafford last year, these teams per estimated win and per YPP were pretty close. So you do think with Stafford back and the slight home edge, that's where my metrics are leaning. But I'm with you. This will be an interesting one to see on paper, and this will be a really interesting week to establish. I think we're going to see some quick fixes from Vegas on some of these road dogs to where they'll start getting treated like neutral site games sooner rather than later. So this might be the week to really try and mine that inefficiency. Also, I've talked about my metrics, and I'll sprinkle in some of this data in your betting column. Going off the numbers from the previous season seems to be quite profitable in that first month to 6 weeks of the NFL season. In fact, I've almost learned that I'd rather wait to adjust the numbers based on the current season's performance and still go off the 2019 projections, because those almost seem to be more accurate, while September and what happens in September in the NFL can be a bit of fool's gold and misleading sometimes. So just to keep that in mind. Okay, I like that, Hank. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that. And yes, David Montgomery, definitely a big injury in that, though. Frankly, there's no running game for either. Maybe Mitchell Trubisky should be the Bears running back and Nick Foles the quarterback. Just throwing that out there, and they could run the what's Zach and Ryan's the RRPPO?
Yeah. Wow, I haven't heard about that in forever, but yeah.
Or the RPPO? What is it? The run? It's the run pass option. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But one more note on that game. I just remembered. The Lions defense under Matt Patricia last year was actually giving up the most points per game it has given up since 2012. That defense is not good. And I don't want that to get lost in any of this.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, on paper, they're really stinky. I do wonder how much of that were injuries, how much of that was not having Stafford and just the leads piling up. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he definitely doesn't scare you.
No.
And once you look at the coaches, there's a clear advantage here for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Nuggets play tonight, 7-10. They are once again big underdogs, plus 265, which, whatever. I've seen enough of this series, and I'm not going to come out and say, oh, they're going to win this series, whatever. I do think it's decent value to take them on the series line. But this series is way closer than plus 265 should suggest. Insanely, the over-under line has gone up, not down, from the push we had at 220 points last game. We now have it set at 221.5. I'm kind of bullish on the under once again. I thought the Clippers had to make some really tough shots in stretches, especially the end of the second from Kawhi and Paul George to kind of close that gap that the Nuggets had created. I don't think that's repeatable all that much, though. Both these teams have proven they can go through stretches of just getting hot from the three. I love the player props in this game, though, because we've seen some real line adjustments. Jeremy Grant, no longer 14.5, he's 12.5. I know I lost money on 3 props for Jeremy Grant in the last game. But, dude, he played 42 minutes. He was, like, essential. And that time isn't decreasing. The way he played defense against Kawhi game 2, he's going to see 40 plus minutes no matter what. He just went cold. He was like 4 of 16, I believe. So, he just makes one more 3 and all those props basically hit. So I'm staying away from the rebound prop, but I am still taking the point prop. And I'm going back to Gary Harris as well. Gary Harris did cover his prop. I'd forgot about that. I got so lost in all the losses from that one awful day we had that when I went back, I realized Gary Harris did cover it because he got 10 points and it was 9.5. And he covered the total as well. Now, his line's been raised from 9.5 to 10.5, but you get it at plus 122. Another guy who's getting a ton of minutes. I think his offensive game is just coming along, is just gaining more confidence. He wasn't shooting it great the last game, but there was more confidence in being that secondary ball handler, being that, that weak side pick and roll guy. To where he's involved enough to where I like him to go over 10.5, especially at that value. And I like him to go over 15.5 rebounds, assist points combined. That one feels like really nice value at plus 110.
Yeah, and I had his over 1.5 threes in my bet slip. That's only plus 105. I think that I like that about equally with the 10.5 points. So I'll probably flip that over and take the points because there is just a little bit more value there. But he seems like a lock to make 2 threes though.
Yeah, that's the one where I've been more skeptical. The thing is, these guys got to make them, man. That's the problem. They got to make them. They're going to shoot them. It's just making them. There's been so many 1 for 6, 1 for 7 nights in these playoffs. But you're right. I mean, those are kind of correlated together. If he's hitting his points, it's because he's made some of these long distance shots. But yeah, again, if you're getting better value on the points, just take the points. Jamal Murray's had a huge adjustment. He's been in the plus or minus, over under's been in the 30s for him for a while now. He's down to 23.5 at plus 108. I think that's pretty nice value, man.
Yeah, I do too. Especially because I had the assist for him, over 5.5 assists.
I like that one as well. Yes.
But that is now dropped to minus 175 just while we've been talking. And at that point, I think I'd just stay away. It's not worth the risk to me. So yeah, that points probably is where I'm going to move my Jamal money. And that is a low line for him.
It is.
But I mean, he's only on, the points for him in this series, 12 in the first game, 27 the second, 14 in the third. You are projecting him to have a bounce back night. And I think that he kind of has to. I think that he was way too passive late. Jeremy Grant should not have been taking as many late shots as he did, even though he was open. So in the Keeping It 1000 podcast, which I was listening to before this with Adam Ottez and George Carl, George made a great point. He said, there's a difference between open shots when you have momentum and when you don't have momentum. And that's something that I've seen, but I've never really processed and put in my brain before. Yeah. And they did kind of get into the state where it's like, okay, we've got an open jump shooter, get him the ball, but nothing was falling and they never got away with it. That's where Jamal needs to get away from that and get to the rim. Yes. And I have to think somebody has been in his ear saying that needs to happen. And if that does happen, then he should be good to get that over 23.5. Is that what it was? Yeah, exactly. Who's been in his ear is Jamal Murray. His inner dialogue is all that it takes. I mean, he said it post game. He put the loss on himself. Yeah, he's not coming out flat in this one. It's why I like the over 34.5 combined assist points rebounds. He had 27 combined in the last game in a really flat game where he only scored 14 points. He gets 20 and still has that kind of output. He's going to hit that easily. And you can get that at plus money as well, plus 108. And then another player prop I love is Jokic over 7.5 assists, plus 108. We've talked about this series. It's all about Jokic. It's all about, he's going to dominate Zubac. Then they're going to double team him and he's going to pass it out. If these guys can make some open shots, this is going to hit easily. And Jokic is a really juicy one to take in a lot of these matchups. You can take Jamal Murray to outscore Paul George, which didn't hit the last game, but could still be possible. I really like Jokic to outscore Jamal Murray minus 120. So, yeah, I like it. I think one more point that I have to make on this Nuggets series is so I made some money last time in the last series, getting them when they were down 3-1, and then again when they're down 3-2. Now in 2-1, you can get that plus 1050 on the series line. But if you look at the series correct score, there are only two ways the Nuggets can win: 4-3 or 4-1. And those line or 4-3 or 4-2, sorry. 4-3 is at plus 2200, 4-2 is at plus 4000. So we're going to jump into some math real quick here. If you put $10 on that plus 1050, you're going to get $100. You're going to win $100. If you put $5 on the 4-3, you're going to get over $100 return because it's plus 2200. You could put that other $5 on that 4-2 at plus 4000 and make yourself what would that be? That'd be $200. And so even if they win no matter what, you get the same amount of money as if you just take the series winner. But if they're able to do it quickly, then you actually wind up doubling your money essentially.
Wow, I've never been prouder of you. That is some spot on analysis.
That's what really I'm here for.
Phenomenal stuff. And I would just put the full 10 on the 4-3. I'm a lot of things in life. A Nuggets optimist isn't necessarily one. But I think this team's resilient. I've told you, I think they're the better team. That's pretty good optimism. But yeah, look, this core has never won or lost a playoff series that didn't go to 7 games. So I'm counting for this one to go to 7 and for that trend to repeat. Before we get into the Rockies, the rest of the NBA, we've already gone on record with the Lightning, but we're going to revisit that as well because we've got that. Just a reminder, all these lines you can get only from the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app. You download it now and use promo code DNVR when you sign up, and you can get you can get like 1 million can't miss offers right now. One that I really wanted to talk about, Henry, is these future bets they're offering where you place an NFL futures bet, and it can be a futures bet in the range of $50 to $99. Then you're going to get $5 free bet on every win the team you had. You put 100 to 249, it's a $10 free bet. All the way up to you put $1,000 on a future for whoever to win the Super Bowl. You get $100 free bet every win they get. So it's just like top notch stuff. You got to get your futures bet in with that $50 minimum, and then just raking the wins. And we're always talking about all the great odds boosts and stuff that they've got going at DraftKings.
That's an interesting one, though.
Yes, it is. And that you want to get in right as this NFL season is starting, because that won't last long. And it's only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Eligibility restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Yeah, that futures one is, who you got real quick? Who you got to win the Super Bowl? Just easy breezy, just a no pressure type of question.
Okay. Before I answer your question, I do want to say, if you're doing this, make sure you're hitting it right on the low end of one of those numbers to get your value. So hit it right at 50, right at 100 or 150, because getting up or at 1,000 if you're spending more money on bets than me, and congrats on doing well in life if that's the case.
Totally.
But yeah, so hit a $50 bet or 100, because those are the two that have the bonuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I hadn't really thought past that. I mean, you're really just looking for safety. My number one thought is I need to get my money back. And then if I can make like a lot of money, which is what would happen if you actually pick the Super Bowl winner. You know what? If I just have to pick one, I think, as much as I hate to say it, the Chiefs are right there. I'd really consider the Saints. That'd probably be the only other direction I'd go, just because I would want something safe. And to me, I think the answer is the Chiefs, just because I can justify it as emotional insurance. I think that they do have the best odds. And that way, once you have the favorite with some money on them, I think that you can look at that as a way to say, okay, if they win, I'll get my money back for the bets that I'm going to take shots on with maybe the Saints, maybe the Ravens, the Patriots aren't as good a value as I'd like, but they are kind of my dark horse Super Bowl team. Maybe the Steelers, I guess, if they win week 1. That's
like
where
that.
I'm really looking. Or, my
Yeah,
Packers at plus 3,000.
Yikes. You can you can let Vegas kind of steer you in that direction as well. The highest the most win total here is given to the Chiefs at 11.5. My metrics have the Cowboys as the most win totals. The Ravens can't go wrong. They're kind of sandwiched in between those right there. All right.
With the difference being the Chiefs are plus 600 to win a Super Bowl, Ravens plus 650, the Cowboys plus 1,600. And so I'm not sure if I trust them enough, but that would definitely get you the most bang for your buck if you're putting $50 on Super Bowl winner.
Yeah, only thing is you just suggested a safe one, and I love in this season continuity as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree.
And the Ravens offer that, the Chiefs offer that, the Cowboys with the new head coach less so. Though, yeah. All right, Raptors, Celtics. We've kind of gone with the Raptors all the way, plus 135. I have very little conviction in this, which is why I'm just going to take the better odds and run.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best move. I don't know. I do think the Celtics are the better team. I do. And I really enjoyed our strategy of just taking the dog and profiting. Yesterday, I think might have been the first time that hasn't worked for us when the two favorites both won because the Heat became the favorite and in the late
still
game,
won, and the Lakers pulled it out.
Lakers, that's right. Yeah. And so I am starting to shy away from that. I will say that the no double for Jason Tatum. I think that when you look through the numbers, he's had 4 of 7 doubles, including the last 2, but he's had 10 rebounds on the dot in each of those last 2. He's had no wiggle room. The over 3.5 assists also would have hit in each of 3 of the last 4 games. That's 6, 6, 3, 4. So he's actually right around it or beating it by a couple. I like.
So you're saying yes on the double for Jason?
I'd say no on the double, but
what am I getting that at?
Minus 132 is the no.
Okay.
So it's not bad, and it is minus 152 on the over 3.5 assists. But I like that as well.
Okay, and we like the Lightning going into this one. It's under the minus 200 threshold, so it's not our usual thing. But once in a while, you take a favorite and you just think the fact that you can get them at better odds than they should be. And then we have the Rockies plus 160 underdogs in San Diego with Senzatella on the mound. No surprise that the Chichi Gonzalez game was a bit of a blowout. That really kind of salvaged my day yesterday. I mean, I guess the money line's juicy here. I would take the over 9 runs. And I also like that you can get the Padres over 4.5. And I like the Rockies over 3.5 here too. So actually, I like those two better than the over set at 9 because you just need 8 total runs for that to hit. So that's kind of nice.
We've seen Senzatella pitch well too. And so that's what makes me a little bit more confident splitting my bet, even though I still do like the over, splitting my bet between the Rockies and the Padres. Just in case Senza does have one of these great nights, you leave him the wiggle room to pitch 7 innings and give up 2 runs and not be panicking at the end.
Totally. And it also leaves you the wiggle room for the bullpen to give up 4. So that's always nice.
Yep, because they are nearly a lock. I wonder what the over-under on bullpen runs would be at this point, because it'd be pretty crazy high.
Oh, my God. I would love that. And people would be pounding the over. They couldn't set it low enough. To where the under would probably be the profitable way to go. We'll have to get into that. I'll hit DraftKings up right after this. So, all right, Hank, thanks for being with us this whole week, man. It's been crazy. It's been fun. It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride, and we'll see how these college football and NFL picks go. Ryan will be back tomorrow. Hank will be doing all sorts of other cool stuff with us on the NFL side of things. So stay tuned for that and all this great content we've got coming up this week on DNVR. Never a better time to subscribe, frankly. So best of luck to you all. Stay warm out there, and we will see you tomorrow.